found a course, it's going to be so many weeks, and I'm willing to take half-day leave for so many weeks. And she was absolutely flabbergasted, and reluctantly she agreed. And I started doing that, got the sitting gills at the time. Then I started hanging around with the IT team at lunches, after work, coming in Saturday mornings.
Full circle, gone off.
Yeah.
Come back and gone, actually,
yeah,
Mum and Dad, you were onto something.
Yeah. So started doing all that, started getting really, really into it.
Yeah.
And then I finally did get that job in the accounts department. I was running a little section and all those sorts of things, very good. But it still wasn't for me. I needed more freedom. So an opportunity came up where somebody said, they've been to uni for a year, they were what they call a mature student, and the opportunity presented itself to do an access course, which I didn't know existed. I thought you needed all the A levels to just get in. They said, this is specifically for people that haven't got the grades. You do a year, which is not, in academic terms, it's about 9 months. And this helps you to learn everything you need to do about re-entering education, plus everything else.
Sounds really helpful.
Yeah, it was called a year zero access
New start.
course. New start.
Forget what's gone on.
So,
start from now.
But it was terrifying because all my previous patterns, all my
I
previous
don't like to
experience.
learn, I don't want to be here. Do they all come back?
Yeah, I was thinking about blackboards, chalk, detentions. That was my little thing of what education meant, what studying meant. Studying meant hard work, using the grey matter, and what have been my previous experiences. So I'm bringing all that in. But like at the moment when I work with my clients and the stuff I talk about, you always come to one point where eventually, if you want to learn how to swim, no matter what you tell me, what I read, I'm going to have to get in the water. Okay? And that's what happened. I needed to actually apply, make the decision. So I made a decision, which is a mindset thing, apply, and even in the interview, because it was a social science-based course, I was talking about computing. So I got on the course eventually, but later on she said, Lateef, I don't know what you were doing in that interview, because all you talked about is IT, computing, and you didn't realise it was a social science course.
It might be nerves, it might just be
yeah.
what you were thinking at the time.
It was the passion I had, and that's what I thought. But anyway, within 6 months of that course, little did I realise, the lady, one of the course leaders, was trying to help the rest of the group, saying, in terms of you improving your assignments, and she picked my name out. She went, if you just look at Lateef, so I'm just going to give you some, and she started writing loads of stuff on the board.
That must have been a turning point.
A humbling experience.
She's praising me.
Yeah, humbling experience about how I structured it, because they taught you everything. They taught you about how to sort of read a book, but get the essential information from the book in order to write your assignment.
So these are skills you've learned. They're not natural talents. These are things you've been taught and you've applied.
And I think because I had all the life experience and the work experience, a lot of the stuff they were saying, without being cocky, I went, I've got it.
Yeah, because you had that context.
I had the context, I got it, and I wasn't rushing to think, I really need this, because, if I don't get it, I'm going to be back on. It wasn't that, I was just enjoying it, I was making lots of contribution. Fortunately for me, my friend who got his place before, he was a couple of years younger than me. So he was about, I think I was 24, he must have been about 22. Besides us, the rest of the group, which was about 15 people on that access course, maybe 18, the average age was about 55.
Wow.
So
you were the young gun.
We were the young ones, but I had a lot of maturity about me, and so did my friend who was only 22. He was really mature. Okay. So he kept me grounded, and the rest of the group, it was so much life experience.
Yeah, so you were able to talk to them and learn from them.
Brilliant, because say if we were studying politics, which was one of the modules, they'll be able to tell you when the right to buy scheme came out. They could tell
they had
you.
Some knowledge.
Well, they were in it. Either their parents were in it or they were in it. Anything to do with the welfare system, because that's part of the social science thing we were studying about. You name it, they were all like, I remember this happened and that. And they give you a context. So besides the books, you had somebody saying, well, I lived through that, or my dad did, or this, that. So what I did was, very cunningly, me and my friend, we picked about 3 or 4 people that we thought were really on the ball. And we kept on taking for brews, we kept on hanging around with them, complete opposite. So in a way, I'm going back to instead of hanging around with all the bosses, I'm now hanging around with all the educated people, or the people that were really intelligent, and we won't leave them alone, in a nice way. They enjoyed our company for some reason.
Course,
And my friend, what I used to do with him was, because there was loads of temptations even in university life, in the evenings, the weekends, in the library, big social scene. So I kept with my friend, and we stayed out of all of it. And if somebody invited us to a party, if somebody invited us to some social event, I just used to turn around and say, oh, I've got to go with him. And he'd do the same.
That accountability. It's almost like a mate in the gym.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
That must have been really helpful for you.
Really helpful, because all we wanted to do is get into the classrooms, get our books.
Do stuff.
Yeah, get our books. We studied a little bit in the libraries, but mainly we did our studying individually at home. He would write 500 words on an assignment. I would write 500 words, maybe sometimes 1,000. We compare notes. It humbled me to actually go back to a tutor and say, look, I've done about 900 words. Do you want to just skim over it? You know, rather than thinking, oh yeah, I'm not. And they would give you a few pointers. And recognising my own, even though I wanted to achieve, I wasn't really after 95%. So that might sound defeatist, but I thought, I know my limits up to a point. So it's understanding my own limits and being comfortable with that. And my friend was the kind of same. So we used to kind of work it on a balance of 65 to 75%. For each assignment, if we're getting 65 to 75%,
it's manageable.
It's manageable, because he'd been working, so none of us had higher grades. Like I said, I had no grades. He had a few A levels and stuff.
So really,
like
for you, that was aiming very, very high still.
Yeah, so that was really good. And the other thing was he's working, like I said, when I was doing that City and Guilds, and I was working in the office in Bamber Bridge in a factory for 2.5 years, very industrial environment, no PC world. You can imagine some of the language that's being used in a factory environment. And I would put it down, there was bullying, you know, and it was like, hey, you bleep, bleep, get over there and did it. Some towards me, but a lot to do with, you know, some of the other staff working on the shifts and all those sorts of things. But the first boss I had was a guy called Barry, originally from Manchester, you know, loads of tattoos, not a big guy, but a lot of bottle, but very, very, he was a nice guy, he used to look after me, but I used to get a fair amount of rollickings in that first 6 months, because after 6 months his old company poached him back in Trafford Park. But in that 6 months I probably learnt about 3-4 years worth of stuff. And
the hard way.
Yeah, the hard way. I mean, there was a few days where I was walking down London Road Hill, I was nearly in tears. Maybe in the first week I was nearly in tears because I was actually frightened.
You weren't used to it.
I was just a young kid. I was only about 18, but it'd be like, because there was no computers, there was no databases, this old big file going like that through it. Where's that delivery? Where's that stuff? And he wanted to know it there and then. So what it taught me is to be slick, it taught me to be quick, it taught me to be calm under pressure, and handle a little bit of abuse, even though nowadays if I repeated the things which I'm not going to do, you'd have somebody on a charge. But what I'm trying to say is, in that very tough environment, I was able to excel, because at one point I had 5 managers, and each of them was saying their task was more important than the other manager. And each of them coming in these port cabins after they smashed all these
and they all want a piece of you.
And they're all saying, how come you've not done it? I said, oh, well, Michael said, never mind, Michael, I'm telling you what to do. You understand? So it was bullying on a big scale.
Not good.
A little bit of physicality, but not much. But loads of kind of racist language, loads of abuse and all those sorts of things. But I stuck it out for 2.5 years and I got made redundant. And when I got made redundant, because I loved the job so much, I was really passionate about it. I was actually in tears walking up London Road Hill about what am I going to do? Because the job meant so much. I loved the job that much that I used to go in earlier than required, stay on past 5 o'clock, and stay with the evening shift that used to do 2 till 10. But I used to do a bit of rebellious stuff by going on the forklifts and doing donuts.
So you still have your bit of fun.
Loads of fun.
But you're starting to develop yourself and thinking, actually, I'm going to contribute to this.
Yeah, and I used to go to the Bridge Inn pub, which is now a nursery over there, after work, sit down, you know, and stuff like that. He'd give me a lift back home. So it'd be about 7 o'clock sometimes to get back in at home. But it didn't feel like work, and this is something which is more and more me now. You know, do something that you love, because if you do something that you love, it never feels like work. But that 2.5 years toughened me up a lot, got me loads and loads of skills, not just in terms of an office junior, as I was called, because we had a head office in Bolton. I started to learn how to drive. I started driving, like, at 18 years old, I was driving like Mercedes 190s, you know, 2 litres, 2.4 litre estates, going up and down the motorways, and completely different, having a different car every few weeks, brand new, all these different Mercs and all these sorts of things. So that all helped. But when I got redundant, I didn't want to tell my parents I got made redundant.
Of course, yeah.
Because I think
they'd see that as another failure and another thing you haven't applied yourself, maybe.
Yeah, I think because I'd worked there for 2.5 years, and there's a routine, they thought he's finally made something of himself. Yeah. So it was mainly not to worry them. Because if I went in and said, look, I got made redundant, they would have said, right, okay, fine, you know, I'm sure you'll get another job, because our relationship changed quite a lot by then. But no, what I did is I didn't say a word. I went to the job centre. I didn't sign on. I didn't want to sign on, and I just said, I've just been made redundant, this is the company. And in them days, you used to have little cards, and you used to put them in these things, and you read the cards. It wasn't electronic, so I said, look, this is my skills, this is what, and I started looking, and took my details, I had a look at a few things there, I went home, and I carried on for the rest of the week, as I was going to work. But what I did is I got my best shirt out, I got a tie on, which I never used to wear, so parents used to say, well, how come you're going in, you know, your trendy stuff? I said, they just had some change of rules.
It's almost like Batman. Dual identity.
Dual identity. Because we all got to dress a bit smart. But what then I used to do was from about 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock, I used to go to all the different industrial areas like Walton Summit and various others. I used to just knock on doors, and I used to say, "Hi, my name's Lateef, and do you have any work?" Wow. I kept on doing it. Most
grafting away.
99% of the time, people are like, "Are you daft? You know, have you not tried job centre, mate?" And even then, I wanted to say something like, "Do you think I'm thick? You know, I've been there." But I used to go, so one thing I've always had to do in life is I've had to control my emotions a lot. I'm not the biggest guy. In the 70s, 80s, and even up to the 90s, had lots and lots of racism thrown at me, and then to the detriment sometimes. It's never when somebody's on their own and when I'm on my own. It's usually when there's 3-4 people and I'm on my own.
Well, it's cowardly behaviour, isn't it? It's easier when you're in groups to act a certain way, maybe. Yeah.
So suddenly, it's like, I don't know if you remember the film Back to the Future, Marty McFly.
One of my favourites.
Right, so Marty McFly, what happens is you say different things to him, but as soon as you say chicken right? So I used to snap at certain things,
really?
And it doesn't matter if there's 4 people there, 5 people there, and most times I come off a lot worse, but there'd be 4 or 5 guys, so I'd come with bruises, and so you've got the physical stuff, and then you've got the emotional stuff of why that's happened is because of the colour of your skin. And when I went to uni, that access course looked at that. It looked at you and your identity.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were able to explore that in a way?
Yeah. That's why that particular access course was very good, because it took people from non-traditional backgrounds, so people who don't have a family generation-wise have gone to uni. It's particularly looked at people from disadvantaged groups, and it's also looked at people from what they call black and minority ethnic. So it wasn't just full of black and minority people, but the course was designed in order to get you essentially back into higher education, look at certain things about why people settled from different countries, and it was really, really interesting. And the only reason I went to uni, besides the financial side, is I used to think I was thick. That's the reason, because when I used to sit with my relatives who were, affluent, very educated from different parts of Africa, they were all settled in London, self-starters. When they used to come to my house, they were all dressed in suits, even on the kind of day off. And I'm running around like that 7-year-old kid, see, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah. And I used to go, dustbin man! Yeah. And the parents' face, the look of horror, but I used to mean that dustbin man that used to come into our house, and in those days you have these steel bins with a lid on, right? And the bloke used to come, and he used to have these big gloves on, and he used to just whip up this dustbin on his back in just one move and tip it out. Yeah. And I used to sit there and I was fascinated by it. But that's what I wanted to be, honestly. And I would have probably been one of the best dustbin men going. But look at recycling nowadays. Could have my own company. But my parents were like, oh my God. And then all these other lot, they've got sons, they were doctors, lawyers, and businessmen and women and all that. And there's this, there's me, but I want to be a dustbin man. But I was very truthful, and that was me. So what I was trying to say is in terms of that course, it gave me that thing of all the things when they used to discuss politics, they used to discuss financial markets, and I didn't have a clue. And what I used to do at that younger age is if all the uncles and aunts were discussing all these things, I used to basically take the mick out of them. So I used to ridicule people that are more intelligent than me. So that is bullying in a way. And I used to...
And so suddenly, going onto that course, you can suddenly see that behaviour in yourself and go, oh,